What's that? You want me to reveal the sequel to Dracula 80 in 1972? Well, why didn't y'all just say so? Today's movie review is The Satanic Rites of Dracula, released in 1973. Also, did I mention that this movie has a killer opening soundtrack? The movie starts off with a guy named Hanson escaping a cult house called the Pennell House, or whatever it's called, but he barely manages to escape, and just before he dies, he tells the people questioning him what he saw, which includes a chicken slaughtering and a girl being sacrificed. Throughout the streets of London, a girl named Jane, played by Valerie Van Oost, who was one of the people questioning Hanson during his death, was being chased by the same cult, who apparently has motorcycles. They eventually corner Jane and eventually kidnap her and take her to the house, where almost 32 minutes in, Dracula finally appears for the seventh and last time in the series, played by Christopher Lee. For some reason, I feel like this Dracula has a lot less screen time than he did in the last film, and that film, he didn't have a lot of screen time at all. Anyway, Dracula seduces Jane before he eventually bites her. That night, Inspector Murray, played by Michael Coles, who is the only other recurring actor other than Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing to reprise his role, Jessica Van Helsing, this time played by Joanna Lumley instead of Stephanie Beacham, and one other guy go to the Pennell House. While the men go inside the front entrance, Jessica goes to the basement and is encountered by a whole bunch of female vampires. After a brief scuffle with the vampire girls, Jessica is eventually trapped and screams for help until Michael Coles and the other guy arrive. The other guy finds Jane tied up with some chains. He goes to free her, but when he finds out that she's a vampire, Inspector Murray rips out a piece from one of the coffins that the vampires rose from and stabs it into her heart, killing her. They then return to Van Helsing's house, where he explains all the vampire stuff again. Water, Jesus Christ, silver, and then a new one is added, a hawthorn bush, to Dracula's weaknesses. He also explained one of the weirdest things I've ever heard. Dracula is making a new bacteria that is even more dangerous than the bubonic plague that will kill everybody. But you might be asking, well then how will he be able to drink blood? Van Helsing's theory is that Dracula is a cursed immortal, wanting to end himself and wanting to take down the whole universe with him. Yeah, I don't get it either. Van Helsing then goes to an office which belongs to D.D. Denham. Totally not suspicious. Oh, and fun fact, it was actually built on the same churchyard from the last film. And here we have the only legit conversation between Van Helsing and, quote, Denham, which is revealed to be Dracula when Van Helsing slides a Bible onto the desk. He then prepares to shoot Dracula with the silver bullet that he made earlier in the film, but one of his servants screws up his aim. Meanwhile, Jessica and Murray get kidnapped, and Murray finds himself in the basement that Jessica was attacked by the vampire babes. He then finds himself facing against the cult leader from the beginning of the film, who is at this point is a vampire. The cult leader attempts to bite Murray, but he manages to fend her off and eventually kill her. The vampire girls are also awakened, but Murray eventually kills them when he opens the sprinkler. Meanwhile, Van Helsing and Dracula eventually meet up at the altar, where, surprise, surprise, Jessica is. Dracula then proceeds to deliver one of the greatest and evilest speeches of all time.
I have chosen 4 messengers of death. 4 horsemen of my created apocalypse. 4 carriers of the plague who will infect their miserable brethren. You, Van Helsing, are now one of the 4.
Unfortunately for the guy who made Dracula present the plague, which was in a bottle of some sort, I don't know what it is, he accidentally crushes it, and he gets the plague. Meanwhile, at the top floor, Inspector Murray was fighting off against the security guard and wins when the security guard held a metal pole and accidentally struck into some electrical stuff. Unfortunately, this caused the house to catch on fire. Murray escapes with Jessica while Van Helsing lures Dracula into the woods, where there conveniently happens to be a hawthorn bush between them. He manages to make it out, but gets stuck with thorns all over his body. Van Van Helsing then grabs a fence post, rips it out, and then drives into Dracula's heart, killing him, and then Dracula eventually dissolves into dust. So to sum it all up, the action is pretty good, although there's some stuff that shouldn't be there, and Jessica Van Helsing was severely underused in this movie, although we did get some good fighting shots of Dracula and Van Helsing. Overall, I would rate this movie a 5 out of 10.